This video is originally in French. The version you are watching is translated into English. So hop, you will enjoy. Okay, guys, so that you understand the goal of the project, you need to know that my favorite band is ACDC. I was a big fan of Angus and his SG. I have a lot. But the more time goes by, the more I'm interested in lesser known guitars, especially the Gretsch Double Jet and Malcolm's. Malcolm's Gretsch started out as a 1963 Firebird that has undergone multiple changes. I'm not going to go over it again. It's all traced on YouTube videos. You just have to know that I think it's a badass guitar. And so for a few years now, I've been thinking, why not get one? There's just one tiny problem, a 3,000 euro problem. I don't know if you realize, but with 3,000 euros, 0 cents, I could buy a car and finally date Daisy at the McDonald's next door. So at some point you have to rethink your priorities. And honestly, I'm not one of those people who's willing to spend that much on a guitar. It's way overrated. So what are solutions? I could start from scratch, as I've done with quite a few SGs and Billy Bo models. But the guitar structure is different. Chambered, curved top. It's very difficult to do, and I don't want to work on it. I've given up on the idea until Gretsch makes this model. It's a Gretsch G5000 222. It looks similar, even if there are some elements that aren't accurate, the knobs, the pickups, the neck angle, etc. But it's still a very good bass. And surprisingly, I was able to acquire a variant of this model with a Bigsby for only 380 euro, 0 cents. It's a Gretsch G5000 232T. The Bigsby is an advantage because there won't be the huge stop bar holes to fill. Another point, I need a black fingerboard, which looks like ebony. And I'm lucky my guitar has that fingerboard. To summarize, at this stage, my guitar is like new, no scratches, complete. Now I have to sand the table to know if I do a finish like the Beast or rather opaque. And for that, I have my little idea. I will probably go towards the model of Stevie Young. As you can see on the video of Regrundown, I find it sober, classy, and I prefer it to the Beast. So let's get to sanding. After removing all the hardware, I sand with 80 grit, and it takes me a very long time. The varnish is super thick, the wood filler too, and I'm really having trouble reaching the wood. Unfortunately, the guitar top doesn't suit me because it's in 4 parts, if I remember correctly. But in the end, it's okay because I'm going for the opaque finish. But before that, I make some adjustments. I plug the excess potholes and drill a hole at the top. In the end, I have 3 holes at the bottom right and 2 at the top left, which is closer to the original model. Got another change to make is the next pickup cavity. If you look closely at Stevie's, you can see the mahogany through it. Personally, I'm too lazy to remove the paint from the cavity. For that, I'm going to take a small wooden plate that I'm going to stain and glue to the bottom of the cavity. I'm then going to add 2 side reinforcements like you see on vintage models. Normally, I don't need them, but the look comes first. I'm not going to glue it, but screw it in so I can remove it if I ever want to add a pickup. No need to be precise in the finish because the mounting ring will hide the junction with the top. Okay, the adjustments are made to the pickups. Now we have to tackle the binding. On these Asian Gretsch, we see that it is not the right thickness or width. It is also, thanks to this detail, that we can very quickly recognize guitars coming from the East. I could remove it, make a new channel with the router, and glue on a binding of a good thickness, but it is not worth it on this project. So I decided to create a fake binding with white paint. Let's be honest, it's quite complex. You have to calculate 8 IM, on the entire side of the guitar. You have to make sure it's uniform. I then apply masking tape to reveal only the future binding. Once that's done, I spray paint it with several coats to make it opaque, then peel off the tape very slowly. We correct any small smudges, then protect it with a coat of varnish using a brush. As you can see, for the finish, I chose to do the top first. Be careful. As you can see in the photos, I did not manage to make the top uniform in terms of sanding. I did not want to force it for fear of breaking the curvature of the table. So to make up for that, I first put a few layers of filler primer that I sanded. You see black areas that are the difference between the primer and the wood. I then put several layers of varnish that I sanded with 180 grit. The goal is to have a finish without imperfections in order to pass the primer and that no defects can show through the finish. I then applied a coat of black paint. Once this was applied, I sanded it with 1000 grit sandpaper. And most importantly, I scraped the binding with a razor blade stuck in a wine cork. This technique works very well, but it takes time. You have to be very careful not to scratch the top during this step. We've achieved a pretty good result. All that's left is to apply the next coats of varnish. I use nitro varnish in a spray can. I apply up to 12 coats. It may seem like a lot, but I prefer a good base coat so I don't bleed through the varnish when sanding. While the top dries, I do the back. I chose a color I love, Harley Davidson green gold. I think it goes perfectly with black. So I protect the entire top and the fretboard, then I paint it. Be careful, it's a metallic color. You have to be careful with the spray paint because you can quickly see the marks when applying the paint. Then we wait for it to dry for a good month. When everything is completely dry, I begin wet sanding. I start with 1000 grit and work my way up to 2000 grit. There's no point in going any further because I'll be polishing with 2200 grit compound. The most important thing is to remove all the shiny spots. This is truly the longest and most delicate step. So here's the result just before polishing. You can see that the entire surface is matte. There are marks of sanding. And here's the result after sanding. A real gem, a true mirror. I admit I'm happy. This is the first time I've managed to achieve something so clean, especially on black. I shed a little tear. Once the bulk of the work is done, I can focus on the hardware. First step, the tremolo. For that, there are several solutions. I can buy an original Burns or a replica, but I don't have a kidney to sell. Keep in mind that these have become super expensive now, almost $400, 0 cents the price of the guitar. So I found an alternative on eBay, a Tisco tremolo from the 60S. It's a bit expensive, but it looks pretty similar to the Burns and it's cheaper. As you can see, it's smaller than the Burns. So using photos, I made a template and then cut a base out of an aluminum plate to then attach my tremolo. After the tremolo, I'll work on the bridge. As you can see in the photo, this bridge doesn't have a wooden base, which isn't at all accurate compared to the original Gretsch guitars. So I'm going to make one. But be careful because of the guitar structure. I can't have a bridge that's too high. As you can see, the fingerboard is flush with the top. So what should I do? I simply bought a bridge with a wooden base on Amazon for $13, 0 cents. The only thing to consider is the length of the inserts, which must be the same as the ones on your guitar. I then sanded the wooden base down to a thickness of 2 millimeters. You have to be careful because it can break at the slightest. Before that, I enlarged the holes for the inserts and also shortened the length to better match Stevie Young's model. Honestly, it looks good to me, and I'm happy with the result. The last change was to swap the bridge from chrome to aged nickel, which better matches the guitar's vibe. I also bought a black potentiometer knob on AliExpress. As for the pickups, they're originally Broadtron blacktop pickups. This isn't correct, of course, so I have two options. Either I buy a TV Jones pickup or I modify the existing pickup. for budget reasons, I chose the second option. I removed the cover, then added a gold color cover that I ordered from a craftsman. The result is perfect. It's time to discover the guitar. Hope you will enjoy the result.